The silence after the storm was always the loudest, the kind that made your ears ring with the echo of 1,000 explosions that weren't there anymore. The iron waffle, still splayed open like a mechanical flower of death, hummed, not a purr, more like a satisfied growl. Smoke curled from what used to be a Draxian flagship, now just a confetti of twisted metal drifting into the void. Jordan just sat there slumped in his command seat, the reinforced, snack-compatible one. His hands were still on the controls, but his gaze was fixed on the star field, now mercifully clear of hostile signatures. He felt empty, not tired, not sad, just done. For a minute, anyway. He built this ship for a reason. He'd built it to be the last word, and it had delivered. Kyra stood beside him, both heads facing the viewport. Her emerald gown was still impeccable somehow, despite the cosmic fireworks. Her golden eyes, all four of them, were wide, stunned. You built this?" she whispered again, the question still hanging in the air from before the chaos. It wasn't a question of fact, but of comprehension, of belief. He nodded, a slow, tired movement. From scraps and spite. He reached into his vest, pulled out the slightly singed cinnamon roll. "Congratulations, Your Majesty! You survived your first ambush!" He held it out. Her fingers, usually so precise, trembled slightly. She took a bite, a small, almost tentative bite. Then a slow smile spread across both her faces. It wasn't just a smile of relief or even amusement. It was the kind of smile that promised trouble for anyone who had ever doubted her, or him. "I've never been more terrified," she said, her voice a soft, layered echo, "or more impressed." "That's my brand, Princess," he muttered, leaning back, closing his eyes for a second. "Terrifyingly impressive, or impressively terrifying. Depends on the day." The waffle slowly, deliberately began to close. Hydraulic sighs, the soft clunk of plates locking into place. The weapon ports retracted. The central barrel slid back into its hidden chamber. In moments, it was just a pill-shaped ship again. Ugly, unassuming, perfect. "So," Kyra said, her voice regaining its usual composure, though a hint of wonder still lingered, "the summit, they'll be expecting us." "Yeah, they'll be expecting you. And probably wondering what the hell just happened to that Draxian fleet. Word travels fast when you turn a warship into a toaster." The journey to the conclave was a blur of hyperspace jumps and nervous silence. The waffle, now a symbol of galactic indigestion, was on every long-range scanner. Some systems hailed them, cautiously, asking for battle reports. Jordan just gave them a standard minor navigational anomaly. "Nothing to see here. Move along," and cut the comms. He wasn't in the mood for interviews. Not yet. Kyra spent most of the journey in the waffle's small, cluttered library, poring over ancient texts and holographic maps. Her two minds, now fully awakened to their heritage, were a terrifyingly efficient data processor. She was absorbing centuries of Draxian history, political intrigue, and the whispers of a power she was only just beginning to understand. He'd catch glimpses of her, one head buried in a scroll, the other staring blankly at the wall, processing, calculating, remembering. He, on the other hand, was doing what he did best, tinkering. He was running diagnostics on the waffle, checking every circuit, every plate, every singed wire. It was his way of coping, his way of grounding himself. The ship was his anchor, his masterpiece, his proof that even the ugliest things could be unstoppable. "You know," he said, "one cycle, finding her staring at a diagram of the Draxian royal crest, this whole rebellion thing, it's a lot more paperwork than I thought." She looked at him, both heads. One eyebrow, on her right head, arched. "You expected less paperwork from a galactic political uprising? I expected more explosions, less diplomacy." "Diplomacy usually ends with me getting shot, or someone else getting shot, or me getting shot and someone else getting shot." He shrugged. "It's a pattern." "You're surprisingly good at diplomacy," she said, turning back to the diagram. "You convinced a sentient jellyfish to give us weapons. Greg's a good guy, just misunderstood, and he likes cinnamon rolls." He paused. "Still, this conclave thing. It's not my turf. I'm a blunt instrument. They're scalpels, and I don't trust scalpels." Kyra was silent for a moment. Then, softly, "I don't either, but we need them to expose the truth, to stop the Sovereign Project." The name hung in the air. The project that had tried to erase her. The project that had other keys, other experiments, locked away or weaponized. This wasn't just about her crown anymore. It was about dismantling a galactic-scale conspiracy. He just nodded. "Yeah? Well, I'll be out here, keeping the waffle warm, and probably cooking some more eggs, for moral support." The secret galactic summit was held on Xylos, a moon so ancient it was barely more than a colossal hollowed-out asteroid. Delegates from 100 star systems were there. Exiled generals with haunted eyes, black market tech lords with more credits than morals, freeborn telepaths who communicated in shimmering thought forms, and yes, even the two-legged cats who ran their own crime syndicate, looking surprisingly dapper in tiny tailored suits. The air thrummed with tension, expectation, and the distinct scent of space gin. Jordan, in his tailored tux, now with extra snack storage just in case, stood by Kyra's side as they entered the main chamber. He felt like a bull in a china shop, but a bull with a plasma grenade duct taped to its horn. He scanned the crowd, his hazel eyes missing nothing. Every politician, every warlord, every shadowy figure. He was looking for the tell, the twitch, the sign that someone was about to make a very bad decision. Kyra, in her shimmering black and emerald gown, was a vision. She moved with a regal grace that was both ancient and utterly new. Her two heads, held high, commanded attention. The room, already buzzing, fell silent as she walked to the central podium. "All right, baby dragon," Jordan muttered into his calm, though only he could hear it. "Time to burn the liars with style." She stood before the conclave, a beacon of defiance. Her gaze swept across the assembled dignitaries, lingering for a moment on the 7 Draxian nobles who had orchestrated her exile, now seated in a place of honor, their faces impassive masks. "My name is Kyra Lyra Kestra," she began, her voice a clear, layered echo that resonated through the chamber. "And I am the lost daughter of the Draxian dynasty. I was cast out, deemed an abomination, to preserve a lie." A ripple went through the crowd. The Draxian nobles shifted, their expressions tightening. "They told you I was a mistake," Kyra continued, her voice gaining power. "They told you my existence threatened purity, but the truth is far more dangerous to them." Suddenly the lights flickered. Not a power surge. Something else. A subtle shift in the ambient energy. Jordan's internal alarm screamed. Infiltration. He glanced around. Too quiet. Too still. He saw it then. A shimmer near one of the ancient support pillars. A distortion in the bioluminescent light. Stealth tech. He cursed under his breath. They hadn't come to fight the waffle. They'd come to stop Kyra. "They feared not my weakness," Kyra's voice boomed, now layered with an almost metallic resonance, "but my choice. For I am not merely a princess. I am the sovereign Locke." As she spoke the words, a faint ethereal glow emanated from her. Not just her eyes, but her very skin pulsing with a soft internal light. The ancient eye, dormant within her DNA for decades, was activating. It wasn't just revealing information, it was integrating. Holographic projections, not from a conclave system, but from Kyra herself, flared to life around her. Blueprints, data streams, ancient galactic schematics. They depicted a vast, intricate network, a fail-safe system woven into the very fabric of the galaxy's most powerful military A's, its weapons grids, its imperial fleets. A system designed to turn every instrument of tyranny into inert scrap. "The sovereign Locke," Kyra declared, her voice now a chorus of 1,000 forgotten voices, "is the ultimate countermeasure against galactic tyranny. It is a living reboot for power structures, and I am its key." Chaos erupted. The stealth Draxian force, no longer needing to hide, materialized. 20 figures, sleek, silent, moving with lethal precision. They were assassins, not soldiers. Their target, Kyra. Jordan didn't hesitate. "Kyra, they're here!" he yelled into his comm, already moving. He pulled a folding chair from a nearby table, spun it, and slammed it into the first assassin who came too close. The Draxian went down with a surprised grunt. "Conclave security! Activate internal defenses!" a frantic delegate screamed. But the conclave systems were old, slow, designed for diplomacy, not direct assault. The assassins were too fast, too efficient. They were cutting through the chamber, making a direct line for Kyra. Jordan found himself in the thick of it, a whirlwind of fists, feet, and improvised weapons. He grabbed a serving tray, deflected a plasma bolt, and then used it to clothesline a Draxian. He was bleeding, his tux was getting ruined, but he was grinning. This was his kind of chaos. But there were too many, and they were closing in on Kyra. "Jordan!" Kyra's voice cut through the din, strained. "They're trying to sever the connection. I need to access the Conclave's defense grid." He saw it. 2 assassins, their blades glowing, were almost on her. If they cut her down, the sovereign Locke would be lost. The galaxy would remain chained. He had a choice, a terrible Jordan Turner-sized choice. He could call the Waffle, unleash its full energy core, the supernova output. It would obliterate the assassins, probably half the conclave chamber, and quite possibly the Waffle itself. His crowning achievement gone, his anchor shattered. But it would guarantee Kyra's safety. It would end the immediate threat with a bang only he could provide. Or he could trust her. Trust her to integrate with the Ancient Eye, to unlock the Conclave's internal defenses, to become the weapon she was meant to be. It was a gamble. A massive, terrifying gamble. He was a man who built his own solutions, who relied on his own two hands and a very large gun. Trusting someone else, especially with stakes this high, went against every fiber of his being. He saw the glint of a blade, heard the hiss of a Draxian assassin's breath. "Kyra," he roared, slamming a table into another assassin. "Do it! Unlock the damn defenses!" He wasn't just trusting her with his life. He was trusting her with his legacy, with the future of the galaxy, and with the very concept of what he fought for. Kyra nodded, her eyes blazing with newfound power. Both heads focused, her hands outstretched. The ethereal glow around her intensified, connecting with the ancient systems of Xylos. The bioluminescent fungi pulsed in response. The holographic displays around the chamber flickered, then unified, displaying a single complex interface. The Conclave's internal defense systems, dormant for millennia, shuddered to life, not just energy shields and laser grids. This was something deeper, ancient. The very walls of Xylos began to hum. Support pillars opened, revealing hidden conduits. The floor itself shifted, trapping assassins in energy fields. Automated turrets, disguised as ornate carvings, extended from the ceiling, their targeting lasers locking on to the invaders. Kyra was a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of destruction. Her two minds worked in perfect sync, one directing the energy flow, the other calculating trajectories, anticipating enemy movements. She wasn't just defending herself, she was turning the entire moon into a weapon. The Draxian assassins, caught off guard by the ancient planet-wide defense system, were decimated. They fell, not to brute force, but to elegant, precise traps and energy pulses that seemed to come from everywhere at once. When the last assassin fell, silence descended once more. But this silence was different. It was heavy with awe, with fear, and with a dawning realization of what had just happened. Kyra stood, bathed in the soft glow of the reactivated defenses. Her gown was still perfect. Her two heads, though exhausted, held an expression of fierce triumph. She looked at the 7 Draxian nobles, now pale and trembling in their seats. "You tried to erase me," she said, her voice echoing no longer just hers, but the voice of the Ancient Eye, the voice of the Sovereign Lock itself. "You called me abomination. You forged my death order to maintain your power, to hide the truth of what I am." She gestured to the holographic schematics still swirling around her. "You feared the choice I represent, the choice to dismantle your tyranny, to free this galaxy from your control." One of the nobles, an ancient male with a face like carved stone, finally found his voice. You are a weapon, a tool of chaos. You will destabilize everything." Kyra's smile was cold. Both heads. "I am not a weapon. I am a failsafe. And if chaos is what it takes to dismantle a lie, then let the galaxy tremble." She looked at the assembled conclave. "The Sovereign Lock is active. Its purpose is clear. I will not be silenced, and I will not be controlled." Jordan, leaning against a now smoking pillar, watched her. His own body ached, but his mind was clear. He'd fought wars his whole life. Wars of survival, wars of vengeance, wars that had cost him everything. He'd seen the ugly side of humanity, the ugly side of the universe. He built the Waffle as a shield, a fortress against the world's bullshit. But Kyra, she wasn't fighting a war of survival. She was fighting a war of truth, a war to redefine power itself. He thought of his dad. The day you let someone else write your story is the day you die inside. He'd always made his own script, but now he was part of her story, and it was a story bigger than any he could have imagined. He'd trusted her, and she had delivered, not with brute force, but with something far more profound. The conclave was silent. No one moved. No one dared. The sheer power she had just displayed, the revelation of the Sovereign Lock, the undeniable proof of the Draxian conspiracy, it was too much to process. Then, slowly, tentatively, a delegate from a minor, long-oppressed system rose, a small furry creature with wide, hopeful eyes. It bowed. deeply. Then another, and another. Not all of them, not yet, but enough. Enough to show that the seed of a new future had been planted. Kyra Lyra Kestra, the two-headed exile, stood tall. No longer just a princess, no longer just a weapon. She was a queen of a new age, a key to a new galaxy. Later, back on the Iron Waffle, now closed and humming softly as it left Silos, the silence felt different. Not the ringing silence of battle, but the quiet hum of a new beginning. Kyra stood by the viewport, watching the stars streak past. Both heads, both eyes, still. Jordan walked up behind her. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, his presence a quiet anchor. "They didn't accept me," she whispered, her voice soft, almost fragile. "Not truly. They fear me." He put a hand on her shoulder. "Yeah, they do, and they should. You just turned their entire galactic defense system into a glorified bug zapper." He paused. "But some of them bowed. That's a start. And fear can be a powerful motivator, or a powerful deterrent." She leaned back against him, her two heads resting on his shoulder. "What now, Jordan? The Sovereign Lock is active. The truth is out. But the fight, it's only just beginning." He looked out at the stars, the endless indifferent stars he'd spent his life fighting, running, building his fortress against the world. He could keep fighting. He could be her chaos, her blunt instrument in this new, grander war. He could keep the waffle open, ready to burn down dynasties. Or he could finally rest. Find a quiet corner of the galaxy, cook some eggs, and maybe, just maybe, build something new. Something that wasn't about fighting. He thought of the waffle. Ugly, unassuming, unstoppable. His crowning achievement, his coping mechanism. It had served its purpose. It had delivered. He smiled, a slow, tired, but utterly content smile. "Nah," he said, his voice low and honest. "We don't rest, Princess. Not yet. We just changed the menu." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small, slightly dented spork. He held it up, catching the faint starlight. "Because the thing about humans, Kyra, is we don't fold. We just keep cooking. And when the galaxy tries to write us off," he looked at her, both her faces beautiful and terrifying in the starlight, "we write back, in bold, and we make sure it tastes damn good." He put the spork away. Then he turned from the viewport, pulling her gently with him. "Now," he said, a familiar glint in his eye, "I think it's time for some actual waffles, and maybe we can figure out how to weaponize the syrup." The iron waffle hummed, a quiet, contented sound, carrying them deeper into the endless, delicious chaos of the galaxy. The truth, once unleashed, was like a supernova. It couldn't be contained. The conclave, fractured and reeling, began to shift. The Draxian nobles, exposed and disgraced, faced a reckoning orchestrated not by armies, but by the sheer, undeniable weight of Kyra's truth. The galaxy, for the first time in millennia, truly saw the future laid bare, and the choice it now had to make. Jordan and Kyra, however, weren't waiting for the votes to be tallied. Their mission had evolved. The Sovereign Lock wasn't just a defense. It was a blueprint, a forgotten path to a balanced, free galaxy. And there were still other keys out there, other experiments, other lives to be found, freed, or protected. "So," Kyra mused, one cycle, watching a distant nebula swirl like cream in coffee, "you think we'll ever get a quiet moment? Maybe a planet with good beaches and no assassins?" Jordan, meticulously polishing his favorite spork, just chuckled. "Quiet? Princess, we are the quiet moment. Everything else is just background noise." He winked at the invisible listener. "Besides, who needs beaches when you've got a ship that can make its own gravitational anomalies? Perfect for surfing." The iron waffle, ugly and glorious, continued its journey. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a home, a symbol. A promise that even in the vast, indifferent cosmos, a human with a grudge, a two-headed queen, and a weaponized breakfast appliance could still change everything. The fight for the galaxy was far from over, but for the first time it felt like they had all the ingredients for victory. And maybe, just maybe, a side of bacon.